Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker from the Chicago Board of Election. His name is Max Beaver. He is the Director of Public Information for the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners. Max comes to the board most recently from the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois, and has worked in both city and state government throughout his career. In his personal time, he is a member of Lincoln Square North Neighbors and Friends of the Chicago River. I have the pleasure of seeing him every 2 weeks at the Chicago Board of Election meetings, and I look forward to his presentation because he always has lots of information and many times actions that I can bring back to the league. So I present to some and introduce to others, Mr. Max Beaver.
Thank you, Betty. I appreciate the invite very much and look forward to speaking with all of you right now. I did want to send a message from our Commissioner, June Brown. I know you had made the invite there. She's sorry that she couldn't make it today, but we'll speak to your organization sometime in the near future. And I have one more message from our chairwoman, Maricel Hernandez, too, who wanted to remind me that this is also still the first time in the Chicago Board's history it is a women-led majority at the Board of Elections now. So long time coming, but I think we've finally joined the 21st century on that part. I do want to thank you so much for all of your help and assistance with Chicago's voters, especially ahead of this June 28th primary. It's going to be a long rest of this month educating voters about this election that nobody seems to know has been moved into the summer. I know that primary elections are always tricky to get people to come out versus presidential years, and those numbers that we saw in 2020. So while we're very hopeful and want to keep up the voter turnout that we've seen, we're also preparing ourselves for trying to get out as much information as we can about vote by mail and early vote, because we know so many people are going to be on summer vacation. So many people are going to need the flexibility ahead of this election date because it's not March 15th and it's summer vacation time. So for this presentation, I want to talk about some of the immediate things and deadlines happening before the June 28th primary election, and then some of our board's goals and communication goals heading into 2023 and 2024, because we have this upcoming election, but then we have three more in a row immediately after this. So this is the primary election for the gubernatorial election on November 8th. Coming up for the general election then. And then we have the municipal elections on February 28th with the runoff election on April 4th. So we're good and busy right now, and we'll stay good and busy through April of next year. When I first started almost a year ago here at the board, I looked at that runway and everybody warned me, being kind of like, don't get used to this. We don't generally have an off year. And I will say I very much enjoyed my long runway, but now it's here, and now, it's my first rodeo. So I appreciate everybody's assistance, and Betty, your kind words as I get into my first election here too. So as I said, biggest thing that we want voters to focus on right now is knowing their options for vote by mail and for early voting. So our numbers for vote by mail right now are at 86,000. People have requested vote by mail applications. This is more on par with the 2018 primary versus 2020. 2020, obviously in the middle of a pandemic, but we saw 70% of voters choose to either vote by mail or to early vote, with that other 30% voting on election day. That was the first time that has happened in Chicago, that more than 50% have chose not to vote on election day. And some of these numbers that we're seeing, or some of the interest that we see coming into early voting, suggests that we're going to see that probably happen again. More voters choose early voting or flexible voting instead of voting directly on election day. So it's exciting to see that a lot of these new flexibilities that were passed down by legislators are going to become more permanent and are going to be available for voters moving forward. We will suspect that many voters will still be taking of early voting over traditional election day. That's also because we're hopeful that many more people will use the early voting locations on election day. That's something that's new this year and that we want to thank Illinois legislators for. But on election day, all of our 50 ward voting sites, as well as our super site and a handful of other locations, are also going to be open as vote centers on election day. So just like anybody can choose any of these locations to vote, you do not have to be in the first ward to vote at the first ward early voting site. You can choose any of those 50 sites, as well as our downtown super site. You can also now do that on election day. So we hope that that will be an amount of flexibility for voters that say, oh, geez, I can't get there after work, or there's a long line at my precinct polling place. Now you can go to any of the other 50 sites to vote on election day as well. Thank you so much for sharing the voter registration deadlines. But as Jan mentioned, one of the other things that our 50 early voting sites and our super site can do is get voters registered right on the spot. Or what is going to be helpful for a lot of voters is updating their name or address right on the spot. So as long as they've got two forms of ID, one with the current address on them or a gas bill or the like, we have a specific page on our website for ID and what is needed to register on the spot. But that is also available for voters, because I'm starting to see that come in my email box as well as my voicemail box. There's a lot of people starting to get nervous about the May 30th, cutoff for in-person voting registration, or what comes into our office, and then that June 12th online deadline. But as much as I can try to get it out at every opportunity or talking to the media, is that all these early voting sites also have registration services. So as you all likely saw, the City Council recently passed a new ward map ordinance. We've spent the last few months running around, getting ready to prepare this on the ballot. The first time that such a referendum would go since 1992, since past 30 years. But the City Council did get together and pass that with a vote threshold. So we've had to now work to take that off the ballot, as well as a couple of last minute court case drama and ballot drama issues. So while early voting was set to start this last Thursday on May 19th in Chicago, we did have to push that back just for safety's sake. So now it's starting this Thursday, May 26th at 9 a.m. at our super site at 191 North Clark. That's at Lake and Clark. That's the only location early voting is going to be open up until June 13th. That's when the rest of the 50 ward sites will open. And then voters can early vote at any of those locations from June 13th through Election Day on the 28th. So that's when sample ballots are also going to be available. So on Thursday, our sample ballots will be ready. So people looking up their voter information can also see who they'll be voting for. But right now, our complete candidate list is also available off of our website. It's a lengthy one. We've got technically 4 ballots that people can request ahead of this primary election. We have Democratic and Republican, but we also have a Libertarian ballot. We were going to have a referenda only ballot, but now with that map question not being available in all 50 wards, there is only a referendum question in the 5th ward in 3 precincts from a tree preservation group. So really it will just be kind of those 3 political parties most voters will be seeing as they're choosing their primary. There are some green candidates that will be moving forward to November, but there was not enough to trigger its own separate ballot. So like I said, this is a primary election. People are choosing their own political party to nominate the candidates for November 8th. The Illinois Board of Elections has a good graphic that we've shared that I'll share again, and we should probably get on making our own, but it's a good time for us to continually remind voters that choosing a political party ballot for the primary is not a permanent choice. So unlike other states where you have to register under a political party, in Illinois and in Chicago, all you have to do is request a ballot for that party And you can do so every primary moving forward. You just can't vote for two different political parties in the same primary. So I can't come in and ask for a Libertarian ballot and a Republican ballot and vote in both of those. We do ask voters to make a choice, but it is not something that you are necessarily locked into. Save for, and I've really appreciated the League's help in getting this information out, because we're finding many of our vote by mail voters have been taking advantage of this. But this is the first year that we've offered a permanent vote by mail roster. So that is what voters are seeing as part of the vote by mail application process this time, both online and on a paper copy. But as part of this process, we're asking people who would like to have vote by mail ballots sent to their home address ahead of every election. And, you know, when we first put this out, I wasn't sure what voters were, if they were going to take advantage of that or say, you know what, I'm just going to get this, I'm going to think about it later. But out of the 86,000 that we've seen, there are a lot that are taking advantage of this permanent vote by mail roster. Like most new things, and when it comes to legalese in the Chicago Board of Elections, we have had to been doing some education of what exactly those three boxes and choices means for people. I just want to go through them real quick and answer any questions that people have after this. But basically, as part of this permanent roster, you've got three choices as this application. If you only want to vote in this next June 28th primary, you're choosing the first box. Now we have a confirmation online for people to understand that. For the second box, is for people who want to receive non-primary ballots moving forward. So they don't want to declare a political party, and they only want ballots for the general elections and municipal elections. So people making that choice right now are actually not getting a vote by mail ballot for this upcoming June 28th, but putting themselves on this permanent roster moving forward will automatically receive their vote by mail ballot for November 8th, for February 28th, and then also April 4th if their ward has runoff candidates or the mayor's race has runoff candidates. And then there's the third choice, our third box, which is I want everything mailed to me moving forward. And that's when we do ask voters to declare a political party for that, but that can also be changed at any time. So, you know, if they want to request a Libertarian ballot this time, but a different political party ballot for the next election, they can do so even if as a part of that permanent roster. So I know that was a lot of words just kind of thrown, but I just wanted to go through it again real quick because I know that's one of our main general questions about the process right now too. So that is vote by mail and early voting in a nutshell ahead of June 28th. Now we're looking forward to the next three elections moving forward though too, because petitions for the municipal election already start on August 30th. So you're probably going to see candidates already start passing those petitions late summer into September, and the filing period for those are going to be November 21st through November 28th. So unfortunately, that's through Thanksgiving. And then our electoral board is going to be meeting to hear those candidates and those petitions in December around Christmas for that February 28th city election. So we're going to be quite busy. And, you know, I've been told by many people around the office that this primary is a good runway for me. And we just got done with our electoral board process not too long ago, because as we head into the city elections, we're going to see hundreds of candidates, both at the aldermanic level and for the mayoral level this time. So I'm girding my loins and preparing myself for the hundreds of candidates we're about to hear in December. So I hope people don't mind. I do have a helper who is not going to stay at my feet. So if you see a tail in my face, this is just Daphne. So as we prepare to get ahead of the next municipal elections, I wanted to share just a few different goals that we have, that I have for communications, but also the board has moving past the municipal elections. And the biggest one on my wish list is a new website. So that is, we're heading into our budget season. That is one of my biggest goals. I'll be sharing as much information for what we're looking and, you know, as we move forward on that. But this is just something I want to cop to that I hear feedback all the time. But our website is a little bit stuck, I think, in old 1999, almost a little bit 20th century terms. And it's been a big goal of mine to start putting the RFI and RFP together for what we need for a 21st century website moving forward. So something that's a lot more easy to navigate, that isn't just page after page that you have to search for different deadlines or things. A rotating homepage that I can put up information and deadlines and links a lot more easily, something that's a lot more accessible for voters, something that's accessible for voters with disabilities and blind voters, which we currently do not have, as well as language accessibility. What we want to right now, as a lot of you are aware, we have 7 languages on the website, but all of those are replaced by hand, every single page and every single update. And it is not a great system, and one that, because we do not currently have a Korean translator on staff or Tagalog translator on staff, I can see old dates and it's driving me crazy right now, because we're working with the Cook County on a lot of our translation services, and a lot of our in-house people are helping out too. But what we want to do is bring it also into what the Cook County vote ordinance put forth, and a full 13 languages. While we know that automatic translation isn't the best, as anyone who's used Google Translate can attest, we want to use that as a base moving forward for 13 different languages under that Cook County ordinance, and then have people who are full-time on staff improve that for us. But as part of our goals is language accessibility for people with disabilities, and something that's just a lot more easy to navigate and to update than the system that we've got right now. So that's starting to look forward to 2023 and 2024, because we will have new districts, we will have new police. I don't know if they've actually come up with the official name yet, whether it's civilian accountability but basically the new elected police boards that will be popping up ahead of the next election, as well as additional elected school boards that we will start to see in 2024. So there's just going to be a lot more people on the ballot for voters, and we want better systems and better communication systems to reach voters on that, because they're going to see a lot of unexpected offices, and we're going to be doing a lot of education, I know, over the next few years of that too. And this is, again, where we very much appreciate our ongoing partnership and your community service at the League of Women Voters. I know I'm probably getting ahead of myself. We'll be doing a lot more in 2023 and 2024, but I think that there's a lot to look forward to. And I appreciate, again, all of your time and all of your assistance in reaching voters and providing forums ahead of the elections too, because one of the big questions that I keep talking to community groups and people of is that the Chicago board does not provide a voter guide. And while a good amount of that is on purpose, that we do not engage with trying to do descriptions of candidates or anything moving forward, we know that people coming to our website or anything else are flying in pretty blind. And so we appreciate, again, nonpartisan organizations like the League of Women Voters helping us out in that aspect. So I could probably go on and talk more deadlines and everything else, but I know that you've got a tight schedule today. So I appreciate your time. I want to be a resource moving forward. Betty's got my contact information, but I think most people do here. I'm also happy to quickly answer any questions that you have.
That's great. And you know what? We can take some questions. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes, so we can do that. And since I just announced it, I'm going to ask a question.
Okay, thank you.
The website, I'm excited about that. Do you plan on doing any focus groups, collecting information from the public in any way? Because I have a feeling there are a bunch of people here who have a lot to say about that.
I am. I'm glad that you reminded me and brought that up. Right now, because this is going to be a multi-year process, like most things are related to government and budgeting and things, is that I'm at the start of the process. We've got our budget season with the city and the county coming up in July. And so it's a first step that we're going to put out and be like an RFI, request for information, to be kind of like, who can provide this to us, and get a little bit more information that way, and what these companies can build for us from scratch. Then I do want to start to put together some meetings with folks and with the league too, to be kind of like, how should this be organized? How can this be better organized? How can people find links better? I want to rely a lot on feedback when it comes to that, rather than just my own gut. So
thank you. Betty has her hand up. You're next.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Great presentation. two questions. One, are there going to be still a plan for more than one super site for election day? And two, did you say that all of the election day sites for the various wards that were early voting sites will all be open on election day?
That's correct. So right now, our main focus is on our super site at Clark and Lake. That's what's opening on Thursday, and that's what will be open every day until election day from there. We will likely have some voting at our board offices as well as a secure drop box. But this is a change from 2020 when we had a lot of locations that had secure drop boxes, a lot of locations like the United Center that stepped up and served as new polling locations. We're not going to see that for this election. You know, things are a bit more opened up. The United Center is seeing a lot more events, same with Wrigley Field, same with other locations. And the way that a lot of our team looked was it wasn't the same practicality that we saw in 2020 for, you know, I want to say non-traditional voting type of places. What we are going to see is probably some secure drop boxes for election day itself at Wrigley Field, at United Center, at a couple of other different locations that we will publicize when the time comes. But when it comes to voting locations and voting centers, I'm sharing the link right now. It's really focused on these 50 ward early voting sites, our super site, and then of course everybody's precinct polling location. But you know, as you can imagine, we're still having a little bit of issue locking down some of those specific polling place locations. People who, you know, either closed during the pandemic or are still a little bit, you know, not sure about having crowds of people come in. So we want to try to educate people of these early voting locations as their options as we're figuring out a lot of the precinct polling locations kind of, you know, up and almost until the last moment. There is what I think is fun. There are going to be 4 university locations that are going to be open as early voting locations from June 22nd to June 24th only. And this is where we're going to try to get the messages to a lot of student groups and get it out in the media, but wanted to make you aware that there are 4 universities: Chicago State University, University of Illinois at Chicago, Northeastern Illinois University, and University of Chicago that are going to be open for those 3 days from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we're hoping to get that out for students that are around those campuses or anybody within that area as an extra early voting option. So that's different this year. But Betty, I suppose to put a bow on the rest of that question is that we will not see a lot of the same sites that we did in 2020 that were super sites. Our main super site at Clark and Lake will serve as our main one for the primary for this year.
Thank you, Max. Tana has a message in chat or a question in chat. Petition signature restrictions continue to be confusing. Can you clarify?
Sure. Do you mind if I ask, just to clarify that question a little bit more, when you mean restrictions? Just that you mean the threshold for candidates of how many signatures they have to collect?
No, I mean,
okay.
I get questions from people about how many they can sign. So for example, if 4 people are running for treasurer for something, can they sign all 4 petitions? Because we get a lot of petitioning up around our area.
Yes. So, you know, obviously you can sign a petition for candidates for multiple offices. So, you know, there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of aldermanic candidates that are coming up. Although, you know, sorry, I think you're on mute.
Tana, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself, Tana? Tana? There you go.
The question has to do with if I have Joe Smith and Sally Jones who are running for treasurer, can I sign the petition for both Joe Smith and for Sally Jones? I get people who want to sign every petition they see.
Yeah. You know what? I think you might have just stumped me quickly on this one, and I do want to follow up. I actually just want to follow up with my lawyer because this is my first rodeo on election, and I don't want to share bad information. So if you allow me, I will follow up specifically with the group with an answer from our general counsel.
You know, Max, we got a few people here who might be able to help.
Okay, great. But because I'm somebody who
Jan's got her hand up, Betty.
Past, so.
Yeah, and Jane, I know, has been involved in this. Looks like Jan's.
I can tell you in DuPage County, I asked the general counsel of DuPage County, who said, you can sign as many as you like, but, and this is his but, if there's one that you like better than the others, just sign that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Betty, do you know more about Cook that you can tell?
And you can double check back with Adam, but as far back as I can remember, you've only been able to sign the one petition for the one office.
That's what I remember.
You can sign for Secretary of State, Governor, whatever, but you can only sign one. What has happened in the past, if when candidates have been challenged and when they filed their petitions, the date that was filed the earliest was the signature that counted, and any other signatures that that person had signed for that candidate were knocked out. So it's my understanding you can sign one petition for one candidate per office. That may have changed, but that was my early recognition.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I do think we need to clarify it because just recently I had someone tell me that was no longer true. And so I really would like to have the bottom line on it.
We'll get that in the newsletter. And I'm going to call on Chris because she has information for this and she has the next presentation. So we're going to draw a line with Chris's remark.
Okay. First of all, that was my suggestion. Let's wait since we're not doing petitions right now, and let's clarify for sure coming up before the aldermanic candidates start seeking petitions, as well as the other office holders for the city, because it is, I think it does vary from jurisdiction. So I don't think we should take DuPage and consider it for Cook County or Chicago, but and it is confusing. So we need a reminder, really. This is a good thing for us. It's a reminder we need before every petition signing season starts for every election, because it's so complicated and it does keep changing. But anyway, I'm here to remind everyone that besides federal candidates and state candidates, there are also candidates within Cook County, both for Cook County government and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. And of course, there are judicial candidates as well, but that is not what the Cook County League is focusing, other than we're, of course, going to use the LWVIL voter guide for judicial candidates, as well as the Vote for Judges website to see ratings. But I'm going to start by sharing my screen and showing the candidates for county and Metropolitan Water Reclamation District offices. And this is posted on our website, though I've asked them to repost it as a PDF because right now you have to download it. And there are changes still happening, despite the fact that the election board has finished their work, but some of the candidates have gone to the district court to get back on the ballot. And in fact, I just made one change on Friday. But we have listed these candidates, first of all, by Cook County, then by MWRD for each of the separate ballots. And this was, and we did it alphabetically. So we started with Democratic. And I'm just gonna highlight the contested races right now. So starting off, you can see the assessor race is contested. And of course, the assessor in Cook County assesses the value of all the individual properties within the county. The assessor does not determine what the property tax bills are going to be. That's a very complicated process. The assessor just provides one input to that process, which is the value of the properties. And as you all know, it's the different taxing bodies that determine, really are the major determinants of what the property taxes are going to be. And that, of course, includes the city, the county, the MWRD, the schools especially, is always a large part of our property tax. So we've got 2 candidates running for that, and definitely encourage you to look at the LWVIL voter guide. And also the Cook County League is again working with WTTW on a video voters guide. So in addition to reading about these candidates, you should be able to hear, I think it's 2, possibly 3-minute presentations by the candidates who choose to participate. Everybody is invited. We also have a contest for the board president. And I just want to mention, Cook County has an $8 billion budget. So it is not quite as large as the city of Chicago, but we're still talking quite a bit of money there. So it is important who gets elected to these positions. Then we go down to the Board of Review. And there are 2 contests for 2 of the districts. The Board of Review commissioners, the districts are drawn by the state, not by the county. And they have been redone for the next 10 years. So in 2 of the districts, the first and the second, there are contests. And you'll notice two of them are 4 years terms, and then we get to the 3rd district where there's no contest at a 2-year term. The Board of Review commissioners have staggered terms similar to our state senators. So within every 10 years, every district has 2 4-year terms and 1 2-year term. And they rotate as far as which district has the 2-year term. And for this one, they're all up for election because it's a new redistricting, but the 3rd district is 2 years. So I encourage you to go to the Cook County Board of Elections website, and you can see a map. And of course, also you can see which district you are on your voter card, as well as, again, going to the LWVIL voter guide to see who's going to be on your ballot, to see which district you're in. Sheriff is another contested office right now. And I'll just mention, this is the one that I just made the correction to. LaTanya Ruffin had been removed from the ballot. She went to court, and now she's back on the ballot along with 2 others. And there were 2 other candidates that were removed from the ballot. I do not know for sure whether they are in court trying to get back, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the case. So I'm going to keep checking to see whether or not they've been added back. So that's the one issue. Yeah, I'm glad I think they said May 25th was when they are going to, LWVIL is going to start having candidate info, and it may take a little while longer, and there could be a surprise with someone else being added onto the ballot. Then we get to the Cook County Commissioners. This is the Board of Directors for Cook County, and the commissioner districts that have a contest include the 2nd, and then we go on up to the 5th district, and that is an open seat. So there's no incumbent. So not surprisingly that there's several candidates for that. Then we get to the 8th district. Interesting, that is not an open seat, but a lot of candidates for that one. The 9th district is another open seat. And so again, several candidates for that one. And then we go down to the 16th district and the 17th district. So those are the only ones that have contests. And of course, you have to be in that district to vote for that candidate. The Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, that is the entity that basically keeps the lake clean and treats the water in our Chicago River before sending it on down to the Mississippi River. And in this case, we have 3 positions that are up for election this time. So these are 6-year terms, and that's because there are 3 positions. That's why you get to vote for 3 candidates here. And again, all the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District candidates have been asked to participate in the video voters guide, so you'll be able to see them as well as read about them in the LWVIL voter guide. Then there is one other position that is open, and that is because Deborah Shore, who had been on the MWRD board, stepped down, resigned in order to become the head of the Midwest area EPA. And so the remaining 2 years term for her position is now on the ballot. Currently, there's a candidate, there's a person who has been appointed by the governor to fill the spot until this November election. And on the Democratic Party, you've got 3 people, but you can only vote for one of these candidates. Then thought there might be a green ballot. I learned today that there won't be, but there would have been no contest here because there is just a single candidate for each of those. And there will be a Libertarian ballot. In the case of Cook County and the MWRD, there are no contests. So if you would pick a Libertarian ballot, you could vote for any of these, but you have no choices on that particular ballot. And then we get to the Republican ballot. And again, there are a few contests here. In this case, there's a contest for the 9th district. Again, that's an open seat. So no surprise that there would be a contest. And there's a contest for the 17th district, which there. And then finally, they are running someone for the MWRD, but no contest there. So that is that. And one more thing I'd like to share is just so you know, the Cook County League, like the Chicago League, does have a website. And of course, this is our homepage. So of course, we start off with the primary election. And I will tell you, I was definitely impressed by the Chicago League website. So I tried to do something similar by putting in key information for voting by the various categories, because all of this information is on both the Cook County clerk's website for suburban voters and the Chicago Board of Elections for Chicago voters, but you have to click on a lot of different categories to get this information. So I believe I've got this pretty well up to date, including the fact that early voting for Chicago starts on Thursday, May 26th. So that's all I have, but if you have any questions about any of the positions up on the ballot or anything else, happy to take it.
Chris, that was fantastic. And thank you for that web page, pulling the two together. What a great idea. You have to leave in a couple minutes, but let's open the floor for questions for those last 2 minutes. You just did too good of a job, Chris.
Well, again, I really encourage you to pay attention to the county and MWRD races. I didn't mention the MWRD is a $1 billion government. And both of these governments really are under the radar right now. It's sad to say that I don't see any major news organization in print or broadcast that is paying a whole lot of attention to what's going on these governments. Encourage you to come to our website to read our observer reports, because we do have observers who go to MWRD, Cook County government and committee meetings, as well as the Cook County Health Board and the Forest Preserve Board. And of course, as you all know, there will be a referendum in November on the Forest Preserve, raising the property tax is on for the Forest Preserve, just a minute amount. I believe the average increase will be about $20 a year, but it will make a big difference for the forest preserves. And both the Cook County and the Chicago Leagues are both taking the position in support of this referendum, but that's for November.
That's right. Yeah. And I do want to stress to everybody that information on these are in the Illinois Voter Guide, and I do rely on it for the aggregation for the judges of the various bar associations. And I talk to students about, they explain what things are. Students here on campus don't know what the water reclamation district is, and you can get all that information. And did you say that the WTTW videos will each be linked to from the Illinois Voter Guide?
I didn't say that, but it will be. And of course, we'll be sending out information to all the members of the Cook County League, which of course is all the Chicago League members, plus all the Suburban League members, as to when the TTW guide will be available.
Fantastic, great. Okay, Pat Wilder is going to give us the final touches on today's discussion about the primary. I'm not going to introduce Pat, but I do want to say one thing about Pat, and that is that she's heading up our voter registration for Chicago high schools, and that's very important. And if you have any ideas, you should get a hold of Pat. She can help you with everything that you need to know in order to be able to do that. Is that fair, Pat? Still muted. I've lost my participants list and I can't, okay. You're
okay, I'm on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, as you see, I'm not Helene. I am, but I do have Helene's PowerPoint, so I'm going to be presenting that. And thanks for the giving the information about the high school. It was a very disappointing year, as you can well imagine, because of the virus, and we weren't able to get into the schools. However, with Helene's help, we were able to put together a packet of information that we sent to the civics education coordinator so that he could distribute it to the schools so that they could create their own voting registration events or information programs. And I had my name out there. If they want me to come pick up stuff, I'd be more than happy, or drop off stuff, I'd be more than happy to do it. So anyway, hopefully by this fall, we'll be back in the schools and can do some voter registration. Well, you've gotten a lot of information from everybody else. So I'm going to go through Helene's PowerPoint and give you an idea. I hope I am. Why is it not moving?
Why don't you try space instead of your mouse? Your space bar. Does that work?
Spacebar doesn't work either.
Oh my gosh, I'm so horrible. I forgot Betty. I thought we were doing well on time, Betty. While you're working on that, I'm going to switch this over to Betty.
Okay, great.
She said she's got about 3 minutes, but let's give her her due, Betty. I'm apologizing to you. So we're going to stop the screen sharing, and we are going to spotlight. You've got some time there, Pat, to get that thing figured out.
Well, apparently the mouse works, so go ahead, Betty.
So I am going to be so quick, Pat, so you may as well just stay where you are.
Take your time, because I'm going to be zipping through this too.
Yeah.
Shame.
Thanks, Catherine. I thought I should mention it just because I'm like, well, maybe she said this was the last one. Just double check. But at any rate, I'm only talking to you about two things. I'm talking to you about federal offices, and that would be, in this case, that are on the ballot, that would be Congress and the Senate. Now, very quickly, there are 435, well, everybody on this line, I'm sure knows, 435 members of the 117th Congress in the House of Representatives. And it's currently divided between 221 Democrats and 200 Republicans and there are currently 6 vacancies. The 6 members are from the territories or federal district, and you often hear people saying they're working on DC statehood or Puerto Rican statehood. And the reason being is that they can vote in committee, but they cannot vote on passage of legislation. So those areas are Washington, DC, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. We have 100 senators, and they serve 6-year terms. And the representatives for the House are elected every 2 years, and the senators run every 6 years. Every state has 2 senators, but the 50 Republican senators represent 24% of Americans. The 50 Democratic senators represent 76% of Americans. For example, 2 states, Wyoming and Vermont, have fewer people in them than the District of Columbia that has no voting rights in either the House or the Senate. That's why you hear people saying they're fighting for DC statehood, etc. The role of Congress is to write national legislation that benefits the American people. Primarily when Congress passes a bill, a law, it is sent to the Senate for confirmation. Now, the Senate, in my opinion, becomes the more important because those are the 100 people who determine what federal appellate judges get appointed, and more importantly, as we all know right now, what Supreme Court justices get appointments. So the Senate becomes super important. They also confirm cabinet members. So whatever president is in office, I mean, people got really upset a few years ago about people who were being appointed to the cabinet. And they were like, I'm writing my congressman and I'm telling them I don't want, the congressman has nothing to do with the cabinet member selection. That's why when you're voting for senator, you want to be clear that you're voting for someone that supports your views, because even things that come from the House of Representatives get confirmed by the Senate. And this year, I want to ask everyone to make sure they go back and look at that card you received from the Board of Election canvas, because I found out that there are people who are very knowledgeable that did not realize that they thought they were in the 2nd Congressional District and they're no longer in it. They're now in the 1st, or maybe they're in the 5th. There are people who thought they were in the 1st Congressional District who are now in the 2nd. You know, so double check your card and see what district you're in. You may not be in the congressional district that you've been in all of these years. So it's just very important when we get those cards, we say, oh, here's my card, and you cut it out, you put it in your wallet, and then you read the information and decide whether you're going to get a mail-in ballot or whatever. Check your card. The districts may have changed as a result of the census, and that is really very, very important. And that is my 2 cents, unless people have questions.
Thank you, Betty. Okay, there may be questions. You're going to be on the call, so there may be questions afterwards. All right, let's go back to Pat. Sorry.
Let's try it again.
Do you need to turn it into a slideshow instead of, see where it says slideshow?
Oh, okay. I figured out how to move it. So, okay, you've got all this information. The online voter registration deadline is June 12th. And I get the mail-in form. The deadline for that is on May 31st. if you're going to register with a voter registrar, this is for our deputy voter registrars, the deadline is May 31st. But you can do this on, you know, at the voting site on your early voting and also on the day of the election. I said May 31st is the last day for the registrars to take voter registration. The 275W form, which we call voter motor, or the one that we have the people fill out and then mail in, that has to be delivered, either postmarked on May 31st or hand delivered to the Board of Education by 5 o'clock on May 31st. However, if you're using that little buff colored registration form, the 2-part one, that one you can get to the Board of Elections by 5 o'clock on June 1st, the following day. And then voter registration will be closed and will reopen on June 29th. Here are the different ways then you can vote. We went through the vote by mail, early voting, and voting on election day. In fact, there is absolutely no excuse for anyone in Illinois or in Chicago not to vote, because we have all kinds of different ways of doing it. You don't need an excuse for the mail-in ballot. They're going to get your registered voters may have gotten already information about registering for the vote by mail. And I got mine, as a matter of fact, sent it in and got a note back saying they'd received it. So this thing works, it's great. Like I said, you're going to get you're get a notification when the application is accepted, when your ballot has been mailed, when they receive your ballot, and when your ballot has been processed. So congratulations, Board of Elections, you're doing a terrific job. We went through the permanent voter vote by mail list, so I don't have to remind you of that. Here's something that I need to emphasize with people, especially doing having people fill out their own voter registration. They should probably have some an ID with them when they go to register to vote, unless if this is their first time voting. I'm thinking in particularly when I'm working with the kids at the high school. They need, if this is your first time voting, make sure that you have some sort of ID so that you won't run into problems. You can also do a provisional ballot if that's a problem. June 23rd is the last day that you can request for the vote by mail ballot. May 31st, the last day to register.
Pat, can I interrupt?
Sure.
The slides are not advancing.
You're kidding.
No. Could you go to the very top where it says transitions, animations, and slideshow?
Hold on just a minute here.
The very top of your, click slideshow up at the top.
All right.
See up where it says file, home, insert, design, transitions, animations. Oh, way at the top. You're not high enough yet. Keep going.
Hold on just a minute. I got to move
slideshow. Next to animations is slideshow. Oh, no. You're not high enough. Pull. There you go. Keep going. Hit slideshow.
Oh, there
you go. And then from beginning, hit from beginning.
Oh boy. Oh, I'm sorry. It was advancing on mine. I thought everybody could see it.
Yeah. Did you hit from beginning?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so sorry. This isn't working. It's still not doing anything. It's still on edit mode.
Shoot, I even tested it out. Darn it all anyway.
Can you hit from beginning again?
Sure, let me see here.
There it is. Okay, now your mouse or your space bar should quickly take you through. Whoops, it's back on off. Well, it's moving.
Okay, from current slideshow there.
Okay, now try your mouse. I don't know why it's still in edit mode, but it is moving. Why don't you just touch the one you want on the left, okay?
Okay, let's go back.
You're pretty far into it. Sorry, I should have let you know sooner, but I was distracted by announcement.
Okay, let me go through this one in particular. This is a note to the registrars that I want to make sure they emphasize that the last day for the registrars to take voter registrations on the 31st, and that fill-in form that registrants fill out, that has to be postmarked by May 31st or hand delivered to the Board of Elections by 5 o'clock on May 31st. If it's the buff colored one, then you've got until June 1st. But everything, like I said, everything has to be noted as May 31st. There's absolutely no excuse. Can you see the slides now?
Yeah, you heard
okay.
Fine. So you can go to where you were. Go back to where you were because we heard you really well.
Okay. All righty. Where was I?
Exactly.
Where was I?
Sorry, Pat. You know, it's called presentation gremlins.
There we go. Yeah, I think this is where I left off. June 12th is the last day to register online. Okay, that's using your phone on doing the computer thing. And early voting starts on June 13th. That was already given to us. And the early voting site is in Clark Street. Like I said, I can probably go through. Polls are open. It's from 6 to 7 on election day, and you can register to vote. And we also went through the fact that you need to declare a political party in this. Let's see if I can get this thing to go here. All right, we're just going to go through a list of all the offices that are going to be, so I'll zip through those. The Senate candidates, the representatives from these particular districts. These are some of the state executives that are going to be on the ballot. The state senators that are going to be on the ballot, representatives. The Metropolitan Water, we've spent a lot of time on those folks, so I don't think any of us are. Well, I guess what I'm trying to emphasize is this is going to be a pretty long ballot. And so this Illinois voter guide is going to be such an incredibly wonderful help for our voters. So, the more we can emphasize that information that's out there. Here's the judicial ballot. Of course, there's going to be a whole bunch of judges, and that's where people usually quit. The nice thing about our Illinois voter guide also is that people can look at that guide and find out which people are qualified. And it's also there's also a vote for judges that's put out by the bar associations. So if you do this ahead of time, there's absolutely no reason why you can't go all the way down to the bottom of the ballot. And here are the offices that are going to be okay, here's the information about the Chicago Board of Elections. And here's the information about our Illinois voter guide. And as Chris mentioned, the Lake Cook County information, and also to the video voter guide that we're going to be having. And if you want more information, contact the League of Women Voters, okay?
So this is the Illinois voter guide. Illinois voter guide strives to be nonpartisan. Information for every voter and every candidate on the ballot. Every Illinois voter should find their ballot on the voter guide, and every official candidate should see their profile on the Illinois voter guide. We do not have write-in candidates on here. Every local league, regardless of budget or volunteer capacity, should have a voter guide for their community. And this is a diversity, equity, and inclusion issue. regardless. So leagues, regardless of volunteer or financial capabilities, should be on this. Candidates, regardless of their location or their financial capabilities, should be on here. And voters, regardless of their location in Illinois, should be able to find something here. So here's our one-stop shop for voters statewide. So the Illinois Voter Guide is a one-stop shop for voters statewide. Year-round, voters can find links to online voter registration, registration confirmation, election season dates, and other important voter information. During an election season, voters can find links to vote by mail, ballot application, and drop box location. Voters will be assisted with making a plan to vote with information about early voting and election day location and times to vote in person. Voters can find the candidate on their ballots based on their address they input. A candidate's page can include the candidate's experience, education, issues, stances, endorsements, question and answer, form videos, photos, and judicial evaluations if they're running for a judicial office. We post judicial evaluations for all judicial candidates. Now, as far as experience, it's going to be pretty limited. It's not going to be any volunteer experience because that's really hard to put dates to and to verify. A voter can print their ballot choices to bring to their polling places or email their choices to themselves for printing, or even save them with a login if they choose to come back online to finish their research of candidates. Remember that local election authorities might limit cell phone usage at polling places. That's why printing your ballot choices ahead of time is the way to go. Now, lucky you live in Chicago. You're not going to probably have that issue, but I can guarantee in some other counties, there is an issue about pulling out a cell phone in a voting area.
Jan, this is Sharon. I have a question about privacy. On the voter guide, if you make your ballot choices and save them, who gets to see that?
No, you do. Nobody.
Ballot Ready does not?
No.
And neither does the state league?
Correct.
Thank you.
So let me interrupt just for a second. Thanks for that. That was a great question, Sharon. But because we have our guest speakers today, all have plans, they've given us a piece of their time. We're going to limit the questions, put them in chat. If someone can answer it while the speaker is speaking, it will get answered. If not, we'll take one of those questions quickly at the end. And if it's a question, we have a lot of experts online today. Someone else will answer it later. So let's use chat, and Jane and I and others will monitor the chat. Thank you.
Thanks. So we linked to the year-round help line provided by the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, the 1-800-OUR-VOTE. They have volunteers who can assist in English, Spanish, Arabic, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Urdu, Hindi, and Bengali. There were 246,000 calls during the 2020 election cycle and over 45 cases litigated before Election Day, mostly related to absentee ballot issues. We provide Spanish translation of Make a Plan to Vote portion and the operational instructions of the guide. Descriptions of the offices are also translated. Our programmer designed the layout of the guide to accommodate screen reader and keyboard compatibility for visually and mobility impaired users. Font type and size, color contrast, and arrangement of materials on the page were chosen for this purpose. And for the ease of use, the address input window uses predictive text. So with the first few numbers and letters entered, your address will pop up and you will avoid having to type your entire street name, state, and zip code. So when a voter types in illinoisvoterguide.org, they land on this page. This is where voters are prompted year-round to start their plan to vote. This page is designed and monitored by LWVIL and changes during election season when more voter activities are available. Outside of election season, it allows a voter to check their registration or register to vote online. Also, a voter can sign up to be notified when candidate information is available during an online election. During early voting, a voter can request a vote by mail ballot, find their new 2022 voting district maps, find a league candidate forum, and most importantly, find information about the candidate on their ballot. Further down the landing page, the voter finds future election dates and deadlines, allowable IDs for registration, and the opportunity to be notified when candidate information is available. Now, we all know that this ID, when you register, this is when you're registering a voter in person. If you're registering online, you have to have a state driver's license or a state ID in order to be able to register online. These are additional tiles a voter will likely see the week of an election. Online voter registration is closed, so they are encouraged to register at their polling places. The vote by mail application deadline may be passed already, so Dropbox locations are linked, and any voter encountering difficulty in early voting or on election day can call 866-OUR-VOTE to obtain help in several languages. And of course, voters can research their candidates on the ballot. To find out what is on your ballot during the election season, type in your home address and click the Get Started button. Predictive text function will anticipate the address as you type it in. So you do not need to type in the whole address. After you type in the home address, you'll see this screen. This occurs only during a primary, and you must choose a party to reach that party's ballot. During a general election, this page will not appear. And if you want to see both, you can do so, but you have to do one at a time. So using the panel on the left here, left side of the page, select a race. If you select Illinois governor, you can click on one of the candidates to view the candidates page. By hovering over clicking on the candidate, you'll see the candidate's biography, including experience and education on their page. You might even find a league-generated candidate forum or a league-generated Q&A. If you choose to prepare a ballot plan to take to the polls, you can add the candidate to your sample ballot by clicking on Add to My Ballot, this right in the middle here. Below the candidate's name. Then you can move on to other federal, state, and local races using the panel on the left side of the page. After selecting all your candidates, you can push the purple button up here that says View Your Sample Ballot. You can make a plan to email your ballot choices to yourself, to print, or just print it out at that time. Remember that some election authorities have limited cell phone usage at polling places. To save your ballot choices and return to finish candidate research later, you have to save it by creating a login. This is optional. So this is, I'm getting help from this 18-month-old. So at the top right hand of your ballot, you can decide to sign in. You put in your email, you choose a password. Nobody gets that LWVIL, and our vendor does not receive that. It's just you. So if you're halfway through your ballot and something happens, you can come back and look at it again. Hovering over a judicial candidate reveals the candidate's bar recommendations. And there may be a ballot measure on the ballot, and it could be read here and added to your ballot plan. There's an option for you to share your sample ballot with family and friends over here. You can choose to read the instructional information on any page of the guide in Spanish by going to the bottom of any page and choosing Spanish in the drop-down menu. That's of course here. You can find your polling place by clicking the button on the top right where the blue arrow points. And if you missed it on the landing page, you can check your registration here. So most of us on this call, probably all of us, don't have to worry about remembering to vote, but this is how you make a plan to vote. So if you're going to vote you can vote in person, or you can make your plan to vote in person or by mail. So if you're voting early, you can check that. You can put in a time, and then it'll give you the 3 closest locations to you, to where you could early vote. And then if you want to put in your email address, you'll receive a text, an email address, you'll receive an email, or if you want to put in your phone number, your cell phone number, you'll receive a text to remind you. And this is what you have. Your plan to vote. And if you're voting in person, again, same thing. It'll take you to the State Board of Election. You'll pick the election, and you'll pick your jurisdiction, and it'll give you your precinct and where you should vote. So I know this was really quick, but I know everybody is on a tight schedule. I'll be happy to, go back and review anything that you need, but the Equitable Guide is for all voters, all leagues, and all candidates. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. That was great. There was some chatter about getting the signs to post in yards and on corners to advertise this. Some of us have them. Betty's already putting them out. How do people go about getting some, or are we just using the leftover ones?
We're just using the leftover ones. We got a grant in 2020 through Just Democracy and so we printed up those signs. I had a couple of leftover ones. Kathy Kenny may have some leftover ones. I gave all of my leftover ones. I had like 40 in English and 20 in Spanish, and I sent them with league members who were at the rally last Saturday, and they passed them out. I know that all the English ones are gone. I think they still have maybe 20, maybe 15 of the Spanish ones.
Okay, well, we'll do an inventory locally, and we'll let people know what's going on.
I got mine from Kathy Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.